The story begins with two black-gloved hands making incisions in a turkey and stitching the cuts. The hands belong to medical student Mary Mason as she practices on inedible turkey. Later, she's in class, learning about how much time a surgeon has to reattach amputated limbs, as she called by her telephone company. This results in her teacher, Dr. Grant, asking her questions. But even after she gives him the correct answers, he remains malcontent. He believes she is wasting her and his time in his class as she isn't fully concentrated. A surgeon can't make mistake during his job. But unbeknownst to him, she has severe financial problems, something he learns about in the parking lot of the university. At night, Mary is called by her grandmother, who she calls Nana, and ensures her grandmother everything went good with her. She conceals her financial problems and laughs at the suggestion of having a boyfriend while she tried to find a job that offers easy cash. An advertisement for a stripper with no sex requirement draws her attention, and she eventually decides to do it. She prints her resume and goes to the strip club, the Bourbon. After a short conversation with the owner, Billy Barker, she is ordered by Billy to massage his shoulders, to which she complies. But the job interview is cut short as Lance, one of Billy's enforcers, tells Billy he have bad news. He disappears for a moment and sends Mary away, only to change his mind. Having read her resume, he knows she's a surgeon in training. After changing his mind several times, he offers her $5 million as she can save the life of one of his guys. The man is terrible condition, and it is clear that is the result of a torture session that went too far. Mary agrees nevertheless. After the operation, she leaves the Bourbon with her $5 million, but as she returns home, she has a mental breakdown. For the days that follows, she's scared and paranoid of what she had seen and what she had done. Her paranoia doesn't decrease when a mysterious woman calls her on her phone, asking to speak with Dr. Mason. After Mary accidentally gives herself away, she agrees to meet the mysterious Beatrice. As Beatrice knocks on the door, Mary unlocks her door, but when distracted, she unknowingly gives Beatrice the chance to get it, threatening the intruder with a baseball bat. Mary isn't really reassured by the appearance of Beatrice. Beatrice asks her to lower the bat and explains to Mary that she had 14 surgical operations to be transformed into the living equivalent of Betty Boop, on which Mary agrees that the surgeons did quite the job. Beatrice explains to Mary the reason of her visit and the request to help a friend of her. Her friend, Ruby Real Girl, wants someone to finish her, but yet had to find a skilled someone willing to do this. With the promise of getting $2,000 for showing up and $10,000 for the actual procedure, Mary agrees. When it is time, she meets up with Beatrice and Ruby at the animal clinic where Beatrice's niece, Tessa, works. Beatrice made a deal with Tessa so they can use the operation theater of the animal clinic. And as promised, Beatrice has brought the money. Mary goes talk with her patient, but when it becomes clear to her what they expect from her, she hesitates. Is this really what you want me to do? But after getting confirmation, she murmurs just checking and starts the operation. But her professional life continues, and even with complaints of Dr. Grant, she keeps to impress people in the hospital. One of these people is Dr. Walsh, who asks her if she wants to come to a party. Delighted by the invitation, she agrees. But what was meant to be a great evening, wearing a dress she got as a gift of Ruby, turns into a nightmare as Grant drugs her and eventually rapes her. Her already fragile mind shatters, and she decides to quit med school. After all, she had already found her true calling. And with the help of Lance and Billy, she has a plan to become even better. As Billy and Lance drug and kidnap Grant, Mary have him tied up and orders the two that she would have worked for a day. As they take their leave, she explains to Grant what she's planning to do with him, something he really doesn't want. But this time he is the victim. In a procedure of 14 hours, she mutilates him horrendously. But the work she have done on him increases her talent and draws the attention of the demonic twins from Berlin, the web hostesses of Abstract Me, who discovered her work for the first time due to her work on Ruby. They gave Beatrice a call to arrange an appointment with Mary to complete their vision. It is then that Mary discovers that Ruby has a husband. She agrees to work on two sisters, and weeks later they arrive in the US. In the Bourbon, one of the sisters mutilates a stripper by biting of the tip of her tongue before meeting with Mary. Praising her work, they showcase their wish. Not only is the twin very unsettling, their demand is nigh impossible for one surgeon. Billy helps her out by asking a second surgeon, who owes him a favor, to help her. But it becomes clear that Billy is growing scared of Mary and a bit disgusted when talking to her. Something that don't goes unnoticed. She continues her work and helps the twins to fulfill their wish, but things take a bad turn as police begins investigating the disappearing of Grant. Billy offers her to take care of the problem, an offer she declines. She almost kills the investigator herself until he suggested that Grant might have deserved whatever he had done. Nevertheless, she remains one of the suspects, which means she has to keep a low profile. Not that everything goes as planned. As she takes picture of the still living Dr. Grant, she is discovered by a security guard. In a desperate attempt to save her own skin, she bludgeoned the guard to death. With a bit remorse to what she had done to him, she looks back at the object of her true anger, Grant. With the help of the guard, he had almost escaped, but with the lack of his limbs, he isn't that fast, and she quickly takes him out with a taser. As Billy discovers that Dr. Walsh knew more about what had happened to Mary and allowed similar things to happen with other girls, he takes justice in own hands and kills the latter. But after the incident with the guard, even Mary starts to question her own morals. But both Beatrice and Lance talks her out of it. According to Lance, she had done what she had to do. And what she had done to Grant was rightful punishment. He even expressed his respect for her work. But Billy grew more scared by each passing day, even having nightmares of Mary turning on him. This is partially due to her attack on one of his new strippers after she caught the stripper fellating Billy. The attack was cut short as Mary came to her senses before she could do any harm, but Billy no longer trusts her. The disappearing of a second doctor didn't go unnoticed either, and Mary is quite angry. To put more fuel to the fire, Billy has a third problem: Beatrice is gone. Believing she simply left, he doesn't make much of a point of it, but he plans a road trip to LA to get Mary away from this environment for a moment. She promises to think about it, but is called by Beatrice. Ruby's husband isn't happy with what Mary had done, and after forcing Beatrice in giving him an address, he has come to rectify things. But the warning comes far too late, as moments later, she's stabbed by the man. In the struggle that follows, she managed to kill her aggressor. She tries to stitch her own stab wound, but this fails as she died of hemorrhage. Her lifeless remains are found in her studio by the cops, who finally realize what Mary's revenge was and what had happened with Grant.